I've been driving one same car since 2006.
Smart car.
Really?
Never bought real anything when I was playing. Never. What was the point? I went to Claire's.
So all you do before?
Yes. For what? What am I doing it for? I ain't flying private. I'm Spirit. Dougie, what I fly, Dougie? Put me on Spirit. Exit row, window seat. That's all I need. Long as I get from point A to point B. I don't need private.
Made tens of millions over his career. Yet Chad Ochocinco Johnson flew economy, wore fake jewelry, and basically lived off McDonald's for years. And no, don't worry, he didn't go broke. He chose to live a frugal life. So why would a billionaire, someone who could easily afford the most expensive supercars on the planet and buy luxury mansions, choose to live like a working class guy? Let's find out the truth behind this legendary NFL player. To understand Chad Johnson's unusual story, you have to look at the actual numbers first. Over the course of his legendary career, according to Celebrity Net Worth, his total earnings reached $46.678 million. On the field, he was the real deal. Throughout his career, he scored 67 touchdowns, racked up over 11,000 receiving yards, and earned 6 Pro Bowl selections. Honestly, an athlete with that kind of wealth should be living the high life. But the truth is, he wasn't broke. He just deliberately chose not to spend. Off the field, his lifestyle was wildly different from the norm. In a flashy world where stars are expected to roll up in shiny Lamborghinis, Chad took a completely opposite turn. No supercars, no expensive jewelry, no obsession with luxury mansions. It might sound strange to most people, but it was perfectly consistent with how he protected his finances. That mindset showed up in decisions almost no one else would dare make. Instead of rushing to rent a luxury apartment or buy a fancy house after signing his rookie contract, he made a choice that even shocked his coaching staff. He asked to live inside the team's stadium. And he didn't hide it either. He talked about it openly on the Full Send podcast.
I didn't want to spend any money. I didn't want to spend.
What do you mean?
Listen, the NFL stadium has a player's lounge. It has a couch. It has a kitchen. It has food. It has shower. What am I going to buy a place for? And everything I need is right here where my job is. What's the point?
And it didn't stop there. He was genuinely confused by people dropping thousands on watches.
Why am I buying a $50,000 watch? $80,000 watch? What time is it real quick?
It's 20 minutes to 4.
How much that cost me?
It didn't cost you nothing.
Because time is free, so what I'm paying for right? For what?
Let's break down the sheer brilliance of what we can only call Chad math. In the traditional millionaire playbook, you buy a $200,000 supercar. The second your tires touch the pavement outside the dealership, it loses $40,000 in value. You just paid the equivalent of an average person's yearly salary just to drive across the street. It's an objectively terrible financial move. Meanwhile, Chad buys a $20 fake Rolex at Claire's. If it breaks, if he loses it at a club, who cares? He buys another one. He could buy a new fake watch every single day for 27 years straight before he even touches the depreciation of one single luxury car. The man wasn't just frugal, he was financially bulletproof. He figured out the ultimate cheat code. Why buy a rapidly depreciating asset to look cool when you can just be the asset? It seems that from the very beginning of his rise to fame, he never bought into the flashy lifestyle of the rich. Throughout his career, Chad defined himself as the millionaire who refused to spend, valuing every dollar he earned instead of chasing empty status symbols. Chad's difference doesn't just stop at houses or watches, it runs deep into his everyday habits, especially when it comes to food. Despite stacking up tens of millions of dollars from massive contracts during his legendary playing career, he chose to eat like your everyday working class guy, even though he could have easily splurged on the most elite private chefs money could buy. And here's the part that really makes people do a double take. Chad was eating McDonald's almost every single day during his prime. In an interview with GQ Sports, Ocho straight up listed McDonald's as one of the 10 things he can't live without.
Why is everything healthy so expensive? If it's so healthy for us and the people, you care about the people, why is it so expensive? You wanna know why? It's a fucking money grab. You know what's not a money grab? McDonald's. Because it's fucking affordable.
Modern athletes have space-age sleep pods, hyperbaric oxygen chambers, and personal nutritionists forcing them to drink kale smoothies that taste like freshly mowed lawn. They spend hundreds of thousands of dollars trying to gain a tiny 1% physical edge on the field. And then there's Chad. The guy was out there torching double coverage, breaking ankles, and dancing in the end zone, all while being entirely fueled by the McDonald's dollar menu.
I don't do chefs.
Okay.
Yeah, you know that. I don't do chefs. That's an added expense that I don't need. I don't even want none. Just buy me some McDonald's.
What's your order?
Number 1, extra cheese, no onions, coconut ice. Breakfast, hot cakes with sausage, sausage egg muffin with a large OJ.
It's hilarious when you really think about it. Imagine being an elite NFL cornerback. You've spent all off-season training with Olympic sprinters, eating organic, grass-fed salmon caught by monks in the mountains. Game day comes, and you get absolutely smoked for a 60-yard touchdown by a dude who is currently burping up a sausage McMuffin. It wasn't just a dietary choice, it was the ultimate psychological warfare. He didn't just beat you, he beat you on a $5 budget. Chad Johnson's lifestyle isn't just a personal choice, it's basically a direct hit on flex culture, that obsession with showing off wealth that's deeply embedded in the NFL. An NFL locker room is often compared to a luxury fashion runway, a place where the flashiest, most extravagant things are on full display. Walk in, and you're instantly blinded by oversized diamond chains hanging heavy around necks, watches like Richard Mille or Rolex worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, and countless custom designer outfits. In this deeply rooted flex culture, there's almost an unspoken rule. If you're making tens of millions, you're expected to wear it, literally, so the whole world can see it sparkle. But right in the middle of all that loud, money-scented chaos, Ochocinco, who pocketed over $47 million throughout his career, went completely against the grain by wearing almost nothing of real value at all. And Chad didn't just quietly reject luxury, he openly admitted it, even saying in an interview with Graham Bensinger that he wears fake jewelry.
Shopping at Claire's. My jewelry has always been fake. Rolexes, diamonds, everything is cubic zirconia because it all shines the same when the light hits it. If you already have money, there's no reason to buy anything real.
And if you look deeper, his almost poor-looking minimalist lifestyle isn't about being cheap or just saving money. It's actually a bold personal declaration pushing back against social pressure and tearing down the toxic flex culture. In the end, the greatest legacy this legend leaves behind isn't just his jaw-dropping catches on the field, it's the absolute freedom in his mindset. In a world where people constantly spend, stretch, and stress just to look rich and successful, Chad Johnson chose a much calmer path. He doesn't need to prove a single thing to anyone. However, behind that confidence and slightly unconventional lifestyle lies a very real, very grounded fear. For someone who has already reached the absolute peak like Chad Johnson, the ultimate fear isn't having nothing, it's having everything, and then being forced to watch it all slowly slip away into nothingness. In the glamorous world of the NFL, behind those blockbuster contracts and the constant flashes of cameras, there's a quiet, lurking reality that never really goes away. In 2022, Fox Business dropped a brutally honest statistic. 78% of professional athletes go broke within 3 years of retirement. They may be unstoppable warriors on the field, but when it comes to the financial chessboard of life, many end up completely lost. That fear is exactly what shaped Chad's go-against-the-grain lifestyle. During his prime years, he stood right there in the locker room watching his own teammates, his brothers, throw money out the window without a second thought. We're talking tens of millions of dollars poured into fleets of supercars, massive mansions sitting empty, endless all-night parties, and reckless investments that vanished overnight like they were never there to begin with. And let's not forget the invisible money pit that bankrupts almost every professional athlete, the entourage tax. The second that rookie signing bonus hits the bank account, suddenly every third cousin, high school buddy, and guy you bought gum from in the 5th grade wants to become your manager or business partner. Suddenly, players aren't just paying for their own lavish lifestyle, they're funding a small, extremely unprofitable village. Guys were paying $5,000 a week just to have 3 dudes carry their gym bags and nod at everything they said. Chad completely bypassed this trap because he knows how unsustainable that lifestyle is.
No, you know how hard it is to live like that all the time, consistently, and be fly every day.
Yeah.
Jewelry and listen, eras of rappers. Think about the era before us.
Right.
Everybody was flashy, stunned, and after 10 years, what happens?
They ain't flashy, they ain't stuff.
No, you can't. It's impossible to sustain.
Right.
It's impossible.
It's kind of hard to have an entourage of hangers-on mooching off you when you literally live inside a stadium locker room and your idea of a wild Friday night out is hitting the local drive-thru. By keeping his overhead spectacularly low, he didn't just save cash, he basically put up an invisible, gold-digger-proof force field. Ocho isn't living like a poor man. He's actively avoiding the fate that traps so many rich ones. That's why his tight budget habits didn't come from being cheap, but from a deep fear of losing control. This is the mindset of someone incredibly grounded, prioritizing survival, security, and long-term financial freedom over stacking short-term shine just to impress other people. At the end of the day, Chad Johnson isn't rejecting wealth. He's redefining how to keep it. And if that mindset explains how he protects his wealth, the next layer reveals why. A deeper philosophy that flips the entire game. A lot of people would think that walking away with $47 million in salary after years of getting battered in the NFL means one thing: go buy a few mansions and casually stroll around iced out in shiny Rolexes. But Chad Johnson? Not even close. The deepest layer of this eccentric former player's philosophy hides a sharp truth. To him, not spending money is actually the cheapest way to buy freedom. From the very beginning of his career, Chad drew an extremely clear line in the sand: no debt, no mortgages, and absolutely no becoming a hostage to a flashy, expensive lifestyle. His refusal to splurge on luxury items isn't about being cheap, it's because he understands the game at its core. Being broke while trying to look rich is the most tragic kind of poverty there is. Because of that almost immune to luxury lifestyle, Chad unlocked a privilege that very few superstars ever experience. By spending like a fresh college graduate, he never had to sweat over chasing massive contracts just to keep up with endless credit card bills. While many of his peers were grinding their bodies into the ground, sometimes even taking painkillers just to stay on the field because they had supercars on installment payments waiting at home, Chad was out there simply enjoying the game. No pressure to bow down to team owners, no stress about maintaining a flashy big baller image for the media. If he got cut tomorrow, he'd still sleep a full 8 hours on his modest bed without worrying about the bank knocking on his door to repossess anything. And when you really think about it, the idea of being rich in today's world can feel like the perfect trap. So many people carry the label of billionaire or successful entrepreneur sitting on massive fortunes. But in reality, they're completely tied down by their own spending. They get stuck in a brutal loop, make huge money, spend huge money maintaining luxury mansions, servicing supercars, funding expensive social circles, then go right back to grinding just to feed those same lifeless things. Chad Johnson saw right through that illusion. He stepped out of that endless cycle and chose to live freely, as he once shared on X. "Man, I'm just living life carefree with a pinch of structure and discipline in the right areas." Think about the everyday psychology here for a second. We live in a society where regular people with $400 in their checking account will go into crippling credit card debt just to buy a designer belt with a massive logo, purely to convince strangers on the internet they are winning at life. It's an exhausting 24/7 performance. Chad flipped that script completely. His poor man aesthetic was actually the ultimate power move in disguise. It's like entering a VIP room full of peacocks desperately trying to outstrut each other with their shiny feathers, and you just stroll in wearing gray sweatpants and slide sandals. It silently screams, "I am so secure in my talent and my bank account that I don't need a shiny piece of metal to validate my existence." While other guys were desperately defined by the brands they owned, Chad was defined entirely by who he was, and nobody could repossess that. What he bought is something far more powerful: the ability to not need anything at all, freedom over status. And that kind of peace, that might just be the most luxurious thing money can ever buy. But what makes it even more striking is that this wasn't just a mindset he held during his career. It stayed with him long after the spotlight faded. The authenticity in Chad Johnson's lifestyle becomes even more crystal clear after he walks away from the game. After retiring with tens of millions of dollars in the bank, most sports superstars tend to spiral into endless parties or extravagant, over-the-top vacations. But Johnson, he just kept living exactly the same way. Scroll through his social media all the way up to 2026, and what jumps out at you isn't flashy displays of wealth or luxury flexes. It's a former NFL star stubbornly sticking to Spirit Airline in economy class, while repeatedly and unapologetically professing his love for McDonald's. With that level of genuine, almost legendary loyalty to the fast food giant, fans have even gone out of their way to tag the company on X, basically campaigning for him to be made an ambassador immediately. But let's talk about that Spirit Airlines thing for a second. NFL players usually charter private jets with leather massage chairs and personal flight attendants handing out caviar. Not Chad.
I ain't flying private, I'm Spirit. Dougie, what I fly, Dougie? Put me on Spirit. Exit row, window seat. That's all I need. Long as I get from point A to point B. I don't need private.
A guy with over $40 million in the bank willingly squeezed his athletic frame into a Spirit Airlines middle seat, probably arguing with the gate agent about whether his McDonald's bag counts as a personal item. Why? Because a private jet costs $20,000 an hour. and a Spirit ticket costs $49 plus a little bit of your dignity. To Chad, the math was a no-brainer. Both planes land on the exact same runway at the exact same time. That kind of consistency is honestly rare, and it proves something fundamental. This isn't some carefully crafted image built by PR experts. This is who he is, at his core. And that level of unwavering self-alignment is almost unheard of in a world as flashy and image-obsessed as the National Football League. Chad understands that his core value as a person outweighs any $80,000 watch or a shiny Rolls Royce. Someone who was willing to sleep at the facility even when he was already a star athlete clearly doesn't need to perform humility just to win public approval. When you go from nothing to the peak of fame, it's incredibly easy to get blinded by money. But the way Chad has protected his massive wealth over decades tells you everything. You don't stay the same after getting rich unless you were already that person to begin with. And in his case, he never changed, because there was nothing to change. So in the end, if we had to sum up the answer to the question from the very beginning, why did he choose to live like a working-class guy? There's really only one conclusion. It was never about being broke or obsessively cheap. It's because he's one of the rare individuals who truly understands the nature and value of money. Over the course of a career that brought in more than $46 million, Chad refused to let money control or define his life. By ignoring the polished, flashy standards of success that society constantly shoves in people's faces, he managed to fully protect his identity, his quirky personality, and his unfiltered authenticity. At the end of the day, the message this man leaves behind is both powerful and incredibly practical. Money was never meant to be a tool for you to strain yourself trying to prove your worth to the outside world. It's meant to be the strongest shield protecting your freedom. And to really understand the difference that shield makes, just compare two types of people in modern society. On one side, you have those who are rich or trying very hard to look rich, constantly anxious that the world might not recognize their success. They get sucked into an endless arms race of showing off. Logo-covered outfits, roaring supercars, massive mansions, all just to scream, "Look at me, look at my status." On the complete opposite end, you have Chad Johnson, a true anomaly in the middle of all that noise. A man who doesn't need anyone to know he's rich. He's completely immune to judgment, completely unbothered by how many zeros people think he has in his bank account, because he knows exactly why he lives the way he does.
I didn't want to fit in with anyone else. Everything I did, I wanted to be over here on my own. I was completely different.
Because I don't need validation from nobody on the outside. Never have.
Chad Johnson might look like a poor man, but the way he lives? That's something a lot of millionaires will never be able to afford. So what do you think? Who's actually rich? The one who has money but spends it all? Or the one who doesn't even feel the need to spend it? Share your thoughts and comment below.